And do we have people that are wanting to zoom in?
All applicants are required to zoom in.
Oh, right. And the planner. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. So if I could have that, please.
Resolved, the agenda for the meeting be adopted as circulated with the noted additions. Zoning bylaws 15.3, bylaw 13 of 2021, zoning bylaw amendment for drainage ponds.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Belanger, Councillor Vazarowicz seconds. Any other items that we can talk about today? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I would like to add in the email that I sent about Hay Road, if we can have a quick discussion, or Hay Road / boardwalk.
Okay, and
If we can have that in camera, please.
right, okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anybody else have anything
Thank you.
else? Okay, I think Heather is fixing the resolution. I do have a mover, I do have a seconder, and if there are no other additions or corrections to the agenda, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we have one confirmation of the minutes, or confirmation of the minutes for one set of minutes, and that's our last regular meeting on May 11th. So if I could have that resolution, please.
Resolved, the minutes of May 11th, 2021, regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, second. Councillor Vazarowicz. Any discussion? Corrections, changes? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so we are down to new and other business. The first thing on the agenda is 6.1, the dust control policy. And Deepak, if you would like to please walk us through that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you'll see, that there's a dust control policy that's been established in consultation with council and in reviewing the various emails and comments that we've received over the last year. And what this policy does is it sets some standards to make it very clear for our administration as well as for our citizens as to how dust control shall be applied on municipal gravel roads. It does cover certain areas of when dust control is to be provided, that it will be provided on specific on residential properties, and it'll be for all residential properties for 100 meters, as well as it identifies the differences when there's roads that are of low speed, that they would be applied every 2 years, as opposed to more regular access roads, such as in resort areas, which will be applied every year. It allows some level of consistency and ability for the administration to be able to communicate this to the citizens, as well as to be able to then evaluate how well that this policy is being implemented. This allows for the best use of municipal funds to be able to provide dust control in the RM. As for this year, we have started dust control as of last week, and it's constantly being applied. There is a little bit of going back and forth, because what they are applying first is all roads that are not to be gravelled this year, and then they go back and focus on any roads that are being presently gravelled. If they are yet to be gravelled, they will not be dust controlled until the gravelling is put in place. So those are some of the things that they provide. This year as well, one of the most other important things that have been added here is that there has been an ongoing request from citizens to apply additional dust control on their properties, whether it be on multiple driveways associated to a property, or along larger stretches along the same entry point. This year, what we have introduced is an ability for residents to be able to make a request for that and pay in advance, and then that will be applied at the RM's cost. only the cost of the material, but not the cost of the labor or any other equipment costs, just what our costs are in providing that dust control material.
Who's Councillor Horbus?
So in I there, it says, dust control will not be applied to any private driveways or land, or, I can't figure it out.
Or are not under the control or the jurisdiction of the RM.
Yeah.
So what the intent there is.
No, I understand what the intent is. I'm just saying, in years past, we've gravelled up to the colony, and they have roads inside the colony, one big road loop that goes through there, and they paid us for it before.
And that would still be allowed.
It still would be?
It would
Okay.
be allowed, they would pay for it. That's the intent here for any citizen that's asking for that type of a situation, that they would pay for that.
So that's, but that's a private road,
It's a
though.
private road, exactly.
Well, what does I mean?
Well, dust control will not be applied on private or leased driveways. What it's meaning is that if there's a private driveway, we're not applying it as per policy. But the policy also accommodates for somebody to pay for additional dust control
On a,
measures.
on a private driveway. Okay.
Anything else? Yours isn't working?
Try resetting your machine, Councillor, or exiting out and coming back in. It might be that.
Anything else on the dust control policy?
And there's a clause in there too, like if something special happens or whatever, you can change that, right? It's not in stone, like.
No, there's always an opportunity. Any policy that's approved by council, council has the authority to change. And so our intent is, of course, that we will use this as a learning mechanism as this policy is put in place, report back and see how well it was implemented, what were some of the concerns that we heard from residents, and see if we can fine-tune the policy at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else on the dust control policy? Okay, so if there are no other comments or questions, we do have a resolution that we can consider, and I will ask our CEO to read it, please.
Resolved, council adopt policy number 350, dust control policy, and that said policy be incorporated into the policy manual.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horbus, Councillor Strang seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Manitoba Good Roads Association, the 2021 judging competition, and I believe all the information is there. I'm just going to open it up. Any questions, comments? I guess when I was here on Friday, when we were looking at the agenda, I did ask that Public Works does get this information to make sure that if there is anything out there that we could submit as a entry, that we get it in on time. And I think the other thing that I was looking at is if there are, and I'm not sure if they're doing it because it is, again, COVID times, and I'm not sure when they're going to get out to do the inspections and that, but if anybody knows of any yards, whether it be rural or more residential, that we could submit, that would be a good thing too. So go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
I don't know if I mentioned before, it was late last year, but we had George and Gloria Walker, I wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, we can submit theirs. Yeah, and I'm gonna ask if Heather could just make a note of that, and then once we have, you know, leave it for a few days and see who we can come up with, and then we would get the administration to phone these people to just make sure that it's okay to submit their yards or their areas for potential award. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Yeah, I was just gonna, on here, talk about maybe putting the competition on our website, which makes, I mean, then if they're interested, they can
That's right,
submit to us.
yeah.
If that's not too much of a bother, then that might also assist.
Stir up some nominees.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that. So at this point in time, there's really not very much to do other than get the word out there that the competition is still going on. So I don't believe there's anything we need to do with that one. So we can move on to 6.3, offer to purchase, and that is for one of the Sunset Bay lots. And Mr. Administrator, did you have anything you wanted to share there?
This is the second last of the remaining lots at Sunset Bay. And the last one, of course, is following this. This is for 111 Sunset Bay. And as per council's direction, it is at the, at least at the minimum that council has authorized.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Can I have the resolution then, please?
Resolve the offer to purchase from Jim and Chris Dolson for lot 22, block 1, roll 725551 for 111 Sunset Bay in the amount of $75,000 be accepted and the CAB authorized to sign offer of purchase.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, second. Councillor Horvis, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. The next item is another offer to purchase for 2 doors away at lot 24 Sunset Bay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very pleased to announce that the RM is no longer in the land owning business in the Sunset Bay development.
Go ahead, Councillor
I
Boulanger.
just want to thank our administrator for, when he came in a year ago, has it been a year? It's been a
Just
year,
over, yeah.
that you got on this quest of Sunset Bay and got people involved, and without that, we wouldn't be where we are, so awesome.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so let's have the resolution for the last lot.
Resolve the offer to purchase from Darcy and Natalie Gosman from lot 24, block 1, phase 1, roll number 725553107 Sunset Bay in the amount of $75,000 be accepted and the CRB authorized to sign offer of purchase.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Strang, seconds, discussion.
Yep.
Go ahead, Rob.
So I just explaining how that works now, the money is, it goes towards what we had sitting on, just explain that again, I just get my head around, like, we had that debt or something, we had it on the books, and now this just sort of offsets that?
You had inventory of 800,000 roughly, or I don't forget the number.
7,
Yeah,
25.
whatever it was, so you had that, like, it would be like an asset,
Oh, okay,
okay?
yeah.
And now that asset is gone, but it's only 600,000 there, so there's a loss. So I guess you can't write that, you can't write off, right? You don't write that off.
Actually, we probably have to make allowance for the difference.
Yes, we'll have to make allowance for the difference, but the carrying costs have disappeared as part of this, because that was the other part of this, was that we were carrying the costs. So regularly, every year, we were not only paying, not necessarily collecting the taxes, but we were paying the local improvement district charges on that, which are now being collected. So there's revenue coming in on the long run. So we anticipated that there would be about less than a 3-year payback on any losses.
Great, thank you.
So, but, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Councillor Bezerovich,
But
and
the
then
numbers
Councillor
are going to be a
Horvis.
little bit different than the 75 because you've got to pay out the,
Correct, that
Yeah.
takes that into consideration.
Councillor Horvis.
So how does that work now? How do you write that, like, it's not like a real thing there? Like, how does that, I want to understand that, like, where does that go?
It's gonna show as a cost
Okay,
in our books.
so it comes off,
The difference is gonna show as a cost. But as Deepak alluded to, every year we were.
no, I understand that, is it is it a loss then? Is that how it?
It's only a book value loss,
Book.
not necessarily an actual loss, because actually we have real cash available. So there was an anticipation of future revenues coming in, so you're balancing your.
But you said that anticipation at a certain number, right?
Correct.
So, and you didn't get that number, so it is basically, there's a loss there that's gonna come out of your bottom end, right? Or,
As part of,
no?
as part of your year-end statements, it'll show.
It'll show up.
Yeah,
It'll show on that, but actually what it was that it was sitting there, and it's been sitting there for about 15 plus years. And it was always there. Now what you're able to do is
it's gone.
assign it and it's taken care of one way or another.
No, I just wanna understand that. It's sort of like, at the end of the year, you had $200,000 you were gonna make profit, right? So now, just using numbers here, now there's a difference of 150. So now, at the end of the year, you only have $50,000 to work with. That 150 has to come out. It's sort of like in your rainy day fund or somewhere it has to come out, right? Okay, thank you, that's all.
Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Just so I'm clear, but we physically never put that $800,000 out, right? We didn't pay $800,000 for that property. That was the value, if I'm understanding.
That's the value of
We
it.
didn't get the
And then
value
there was the
at that time.
expenses of carrying those costs over those years. Now you have to balance the books
Yeah,
associated.
okay.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I would anticipate that our administration will provide us an accounting of how it all worked out
Once it's all
he's
finalized.
done the history and all of that.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions? So, did we do both resolutions?
We just need it to be voted on.
Oh, okay, the second one needs to be voted on. Okay, so for lot 24, I have a mover, I have a seconder, have the discussion. I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, the next one we have is the community signs, and we've been talking about our community signs for a while, and I guess Greg has put some information together, and Deepak, if you want to just fill us in a little bit more, if you could, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've been reviewing the signs that are the Welcome to St. Clement signs that are located throughout the different areas, entry points into our community. As part of that, we're also looking at some of those arch-type signs that have an arch at the top saying welcome, St. Clement's and then welcome to. And the intent here is that we have to seek highways approval because many of these are at highways such as Highway 59, as well as Highway number 4, Highway 317, and so forth. And so our intent is to move forward on getting these signs replaced, but the first step is to get the highways approval. And so what we're seeking is authorization for the Public Works Department, for the Public Works to seek permission from the highways for these community signs. And then we will take a look at, based on the provincial requirements for these signs, we will come back with some design options.
Okay, I have a question. I guess, do they not need to know what kind of signs we're putting up before we go to highways for the approvals?
We'll be identifying that there are several different types of signs we'd like, but what we need to know is what size they will allow, what are some of the limitations, as some of those rules have changed over time.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Do we still need to get approval? We had one on 59, don't know where it went.
And not true for.
And 204? Like, there are some places where we did have on
That's a good point, it might be.
do we still, like, although I guess it's like the topic that you were speaking about previously
Like
too.
replacement
Yeah.
signs rather than new
Do we still have to
signs.
go through that step with them even though
It would be nice
they
to
were there?
mention that, as Councillor Strang says, to highways, that we're not starting from scratch, that there needs to be something already on file.
Yes,
Yeah.
we intend to let them know that. Highways does know about those, but we're just taking a look at it and see where are the best options available as we move forward.
Okay, yeah, see even here, update the sign northbound 206, north of Road 72, the sign is there, but it's just a smaller, I don't know how big it would be, welcome to New Arms, St. Clements. So, and it's on the
Of the original.
back slope of the ditch, like the highways ditch, so. Okay, so there's really nothing for council to do with this one right now, or do you want a resolution to seek highways permission?
That's what we have, is a resolution to seek. So if I may, Madam Mayor, I'll
Go right
read the
ahead.
resolution.
Yeah.
Be it resolved that council accept the recommendation of the Public Works Manager authorizing Public Works to seek highways permission to add and alter the community welcome to St. Clements signs as described in the decision paper.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Vazzaroli seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and, go ahead, Councillor Horvis.
Well, these signs, will they include the fire sign, the band thing that you were talking about?
We
Will that
are,
be on the same thing, on to add to it?
it's a separate process to get the approval for the fire ban signs. We are no longer, we're going by the provincial regulations, the fire marshal's regulations as to what those signs should look like and exactly what they say. So they will all be saying fire ban in effect, not advised. And it'll be specific signs as laid out by the province. So the question right now is that Tyler Freeman, our head of our protective services, is working with Public Works and the fire departments to identify all the specific locations. So what we're looking at is adding many more signs and putting in metal signs throughout the RN so that it's very evident when a fire ban is put in place. There will be some added costs.
You see the one that St. Andrews has? When you come over the bridge, it says, "Welcome to St. Andrews." And then right underneath on the same two poles that the sign is, you just bolt the other one underneath it. And when the fire ban is off, you just take it off. Like, it's a really good setup thing to do that.
And that's what we're looking into right now, as to why that's allowed in St. Andrews and East St. Paul. Or in St. Andrews is a little bit different. It's on their welcome sign, and we're going to see if we can put those types of signs on. The other is East St. Paul has a sign on a provincial sign, which when we contacted the province, they've said absolutely not.
Yeah, the telephone poles, hydro poles, you can't put any signs on them.
Go ahead, Councillor Vazzaroli.
So is this sign gonna be like a provincial sign that, are we gonna be able to buy signs for province and everybody's gonna have the same ones?
But we're going to have our own signs, but it follows specific rules, and it says R in St. Clements, fire ban in effect.
Okay, anything else on the signs? Okay, so we can move on to the next one, which is
We
the,
got a vote.
oh. Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Spicer. I have a mover, I have a seconder, and if there is no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, opposed, that is carried. 6.6, capital purchase for the service trucks. And Mr. CAO, if you could walk us through that one, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two trucks have been identified. One was identified for 2020 and one was identified for 2021. They're both in the budget identified as $74,000 was allotted in the financial plan to purchase those two trucks. And what the Public Works is seeking is, what we're seeking is permission so that Public Works can go out and look at trucks, whether they're be used or relatively new, and buy them off the lot. In order to do that, similar to the issues that we had with acquiring a vehicle for our protective services, was that unless you're able to put in deposit some amount of funds, you cannot place them on hold. In the case of protective services, we did lose a vehicle that way, and and to scramble. And council gave us authority to then go out and purchase. Unfortunately, without council's authority, I can't put in a deposit legally. So what this is seeking is to go out and seek those two trucks, one being an SUV truck and the other one being a pickup truck. And that we will report back and it cannot exceed the maximum what was the budget for the public works.
Okay, Councillor Gazarovich.
Okay, in the past, if I remember correctly, the CAO did have authority on purchases of X amount of dollars. I don't remember what it was it 5,000 or 30,000 or some kind of thing? Like, is that no longer in place, or is that or something different?
No, that's there, but it's for specific purchases that cannot exceed that amount. This would be a deposit to exceed an amount that council hasn't given authority yet for. So that's why I'm seeking permission in advance. And so the intent here is they would go out, they'd be able to put the deposit down, and then we'll report back which ones we're looking at acquiring. The intent would be to stay on budget or well below that budget, if at all possible.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer, and then Councillor Horbus.
So these are replacement vehicles, so that means that 2 vehicles are coming out of the fleet? If we're buying 2 new ones?
My understanding is two would be replaced.
Thank you.
Councillor Horbus.
So you're saying that you have to come back to us again? Aren't we giving you, wouldn't we pass something in today saying you have $74,000, so you go buy the 2 vehicles? You wouldn't have to come back and ask us again.
I'm not coming back to ask them, it's just coming back to report to make sure that council is aware of what was purchased and for what amount.
Okay. And I thought that one of those vehicles was an additional vehicle for the waterworks. It was a van, so it would be an additional.
I think, yeah, one might be a replacement, you're right, thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, one was a replacement and one's going to be an additional, because they want one for the waterworks thing, a van thing. So that would be extra.
Okay, any further questions?
Yeah, no.
Okay, we do have a resolution here.
Be it resolved that council accept the recommendation of the Public Works Manager authorizing the CAO to purchase service trucks up to a cost of $74,000 plus GST.
That was to purchase 2 service trucks?
To purchase 2 service trucks.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Horbus seconds, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Just an after question.
Sure.
Can we get that GST back?
Should.
Should, GST, yeah. Yeah. Okay, signs, trucks, the road works. 6.7, the 2021 road works, and if you could walk us through that one, please, Deepak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's, as you know, this year we have 2 major road works identified. One was for Ludwig Road related with the DFA claim, and the other one was Church Road South from Henderson Highway to the railway tracks. With the Ludwig, council passed at the last council meeting the authorization for proceeding with that project. This tender has gone out and the bid prices have come back. The lowest bid price for Church Road South was has been awarded to would be awarded to Chabot Enterprises for $675,034.40. The prices are in unit prices, and that doesn't mean that that'll be the actual cost, but it's it'll only depend on the quantities. But to the best of our knowledge, we will be ensuring that we are implementing the correct quantities, as well as to deal with any contingencies for engineering. So this is our one major project for this year.
Okay, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have a budget amount of 800,000 on this one.
Correct, Councillor?
So then we would just use that much less of our reserve if it comes
If
in.
it comes in lower, then the reserves would not be, the reserves would be left intact.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else questions? Okay, if we could have the resolution, please.
Be it resolved that council accept the recommendations of the Public Works Manager authorizing the CAO to enter into agreement with Chabot Enterprises to complete the 2021 roadworks tender for the estimated price of $675,034.40 plus applicable GST.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Strang, seconds, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we are down to 6.8, which is the crack ceiling. And I believe that there's a decision paper from Public Works. So if you could just walk us through that, Mr. Administrator, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this crack ceiling is an annual program that we issue, and we go out to our annual bid. This year we went out to 3 bids and received 1 quote, and received 1 quotation. The estimated amount of the work is about 25,702 lineal meters. This year, the unit price, which is subject to the actual work completed, and therefore it could be higher or lower. But we will be, as always, staying within the allotted budget. The contractor is using material that meets our specifications, and what we're recommending is to go with SM Industries for a price, a unit price at $299 per lineal meter.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So I think it's $2.98 per lineal meter, which is 1 cent less than last year.
That's what it says there, yeah.
Yes.
Good deal.
Sorry for the typo, that's
No
last year's.
price increase.
So at $2.98 per lineal meter, for a total price of $76,690 or $591 is what our budget is.
Go ahead, Councillor Vazarowicz.
Just a comment, that LMF lighting, they said that they put a bid in at all, like, we had them last year, or maybe the year before as well.
And
We were,
I don't think we had them last year.
okay, but I remember, we were really happy with them. I don't understand why they didn't bid. Maybe they weren't happy with us. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they always did a good job.
Yeah, really.
Maybe they're busy.
Had them for years.
Maybe they're out of business.
Could have been busier.
Yeah.
We did go a little earlier in a lot of our bidding this year.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I believe there is a resolution.
Be it resolved that the council accept the recommendations of the Public Works Manager authorizing the CAO to authorize the Public Works Manager to award the asphalt crack ceiling to SM Industries for $2.98 per meter plus applicable taxes estimated at $76,591.96 plus GST, and complete all required crack seal within the allotted budget. Bless you, Councillor.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, second. Councillor Spicer, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Now, 6.9 is the Selkirk Nature Trails, and 6.10 is the Grand Marais Trail and Crossing, and I believe we briefly spoke about these at our committee meeting, but Mr. CAO, if you could just walk us through that, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have, as part of our financial plan for 2021, we've identified several trails projects that were needed to be completed, and the intent was to be able to leverage these funds with grants from other levels of government. We did receive support for both of our trails projects in East Selkirk and Grand Marais. In the case of East Selkirk, we received the support from Manitoba Trails, from the provincial government for the grant, but unfortunately it's for 1/3, which means 2/3 have to be allotted for it. And we did also apply with Canada Trails Corporation, or Canada Trails, and as part of that, they said that they could not support what is considered as a spur line or a spur trail, and they were only supporting linear connectivity trails that are connecting to the Great Trail. So Trans-Canada Trails didn't approve it, so we only have Manitoba Trails. We felt in discussions with council that there's an opportunity to continue to leverage the funds and complete this project. So what the motion in front of you is requesting for an additional $20,000 to be used from existing budgets.
Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Talking with Dan Lester, even though it's in our resolution, which is good, he may not need that other 10. So he's waiting on some other grants.
That 10 is for the Grand Marais one,
Right,
right?
so he may not need it, so even though it's in here, it's good, but.
Right, but I think this one is just for the East Selkirk Trail, if I...
Correct, this one is East Selkirk.
Oh, I clicked on
Yeah,
the wrong
there's
one.
there's two different resolutions, one for each trail, so. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Not to throw a wrench in anything here, would it not be less money if it wasn't limestone? Could we not use a different type of material?
I think the thing with limestone is it really binds tight. If you walk on that trail now, or this one out front here, it's like cement. Like it's really hard. If you use, I think, pit run or just road gravel, I don't think it binds.
A-base might, just the bigger stones, that'd be the only difference for A-base. A-base should.
But the majority of our trails are not limestone, right?
All these ones in our community are, from Selkirk Bridge all the way through to
Okay.
here. It's all larger limestone down below, and then the 1/4 down on top.
And it probably would be better in that lower lying area, it might stay better.
I think it does. That's what Dan's experience is. Yeah.
Blacktop's even better.
Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
This
I
is
believe the
base one.
limestone also it's kind of deterrent, it prevents your leaks from, with the limestone. It does, is a deterrent, that's why it stops the weeds from coming off as much, they still do, but that's the reason for it, one of them.
Well, and I think if there were any grants available or any other funding from other sources, I'm sure that Mr. Lester would be going after those grants too. I mean, he's secured a lot of money for trails through our municipalities along with many others, so. Any other questions, comments? Can we have the resolution, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the Arm of St. Clements has always supported active transportation within our municipality, and over the last 2 years has been working with Red River North Trails Association on implementing a series of walkways and hiking trails within the RM boundaries. And whereas on April 19, 2021, the municipality received support from Trails Manitoba Grant Program for a grant for 1/3 funding of up to $20,000 in carrying out the East Selkirk Trails Limestone Treadway and Nature Trails by Red River North Trails Association for a spur trail at the Selkirk Bridge area. And whereas Trans-Canada Trail has indicated that they are not able to participate in spur trails versus actual linear connectivity trail, and whereas no other grants have been received and the municipality wishes to pursue the Trails Manitoba and to leverage funding for the Red River North Trails Association to complete the project, therefore be it resolved, the Arm of St. Clements will fund the additional $20,000 for the East Selkirk Trails limestone treadway and nature trails at the Suffolk Bridge from existing budgets.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz. Second, please, Councillor Boulanger. I have one question, and it's like I support this, but my question is, we know that area takes on water every spring. Now, there's going to be maintenance in that area, so whose responsibility is that going to be? Is that going to be part of, like, we pay so much every year for maintenance of the trail? Are we going to be asked to supply additional funds if there is a washout there, or is that coming out of a different pot?
I think the 5,000 that we put in every year, I don't think we've used it all yet. When we do our remediation work in the spring, 2 springs ago we had to do some work there, and I don't think it came to 5,000. My goal, ideally the goal would be, once we add a connection on to go further into the bush, is that when you create your community group who wants to walk, you garner a lot of volunteers. And the plan is that that's the community's trail. So it would be that if there's any work to be done, cleaning off silt or anything, that you ask your volunteer group to go and do it. And there will be people willing to do that, because when we establish this trailway and get your community group intact, they will be more than happy to go out with some rakes and brooms and clean off the trail to walk on. I can guarantee you that. And that's coming. That group wants to come together. I've talked to a few on the street here, and they're more than willing to come together to create a group, a walking group. And it's those folks that you lean on to go do that work, and that's ideally the perfect scenario.
Right, well, I guess I was kind of thinking of that, but it was more of the product, because I'm sure that a lot of it is going to get washed away, like depending on the spring.
Yeah, when that water recedes back to the river throughout the forested area, it doesn't move as quick as the other water.
Okay.
So it shouldn't wash away too much, because there's trees and shrubberies
Yeah.
there. So we're gonna, you're right, Madam Chair, we're going to watch it, and we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but those are the things that come to my mind, because
Definitely.
we've all lived here long enough that we know what happens
No.
when that water comes up and goes down. So go ahead, Councillor Bazarowicz.
Mr. Minister, is there such thing as insurance for stuff like this?
Not in floodland areas, you can't insure in floodland. No, yeah.
Like we got the DFA claim for Luba, I was just wondering if something like this might come up.
Not if you purposely construct it in flood-prone areas.
I think that's the problem.
Half your trails are gonna be grass anyways, you said, right?
Half of it's grass, yeah.
I guess the other thing is you can always get maybe a sponsor down the road, that once they see how great everything
Absolutely.
is, to get someone to sponsor it. Also, give them like for a year or two, like the name, and
Yep.
keep on turning out, yeah.
Just as an additional comment, this is part of a longer-term strategy to see how better to utilize those lands for other purposes than just trails, to be able to bring in some business or some activity in that area, which would help to justify any additional costs if there were in the future.
Okay, so, had a mover, had a seconder, and I will now call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, and then we have the Grand Marais Trail and Crossing. And if
Thank
you
you.
could walk us through that, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Similar to the last one, except in this case, Manitoba Trails wouldn't support this particular application because it was part of the Canada Trails program as part of the Great Trail. And so we again received only 1/3 funding from Trans-Canada Trails. And so what we're seeking is to augment that. The difference in this one project is that in Grand Marais, not only is it a connectivity trail and a lineal extension of an existing Trans-Canada Trail, but it's also dealing with safety requirements for crossing of the highway, and there's also a request from the province of Manitoba to cross the highway. So this trail would allow for a safe crossing from one side of the highway to the other side, where the GMCC, our community center, is for individuals to utilize. We received the $20,000 approval from Trans-Canada Trails and Red River Trails Association. North Trails Association is doing the work, and Dan Lester, his family is donating $10,000 worth of gravel. So the requirement to fulfill is only $10,000. But as earlier mentioned by Councilor Belanger, there's a possibility that there are other applications for grant applications put forward, and there may be a possibility that we may not necessarily need the full $10,000. But what this does is gives the full authority for them to proceed further with the project.
Thank you for that. Can I have a mover, please?
Oh, I have to read
Oh, sorry.
the resolution, sorry, Madam Mayor.
So, that's okay.
Whereas the Arm of St. Clements has always supported active transportation within our municipality, it has been working with the Red River Trails Association on implementing a series of walkways and hiking trails within the RM boundaries. And whereas the municipality has received support from Trans-Canada Trails for a grant of 1/3 funding of up to $20,000 in carrying out the community connectivity trail in Grand Marais with a crosswalk at Path 12 from Sunset Avenue and south to Grand Marais Community Central on the north. And whereas Dan Lester will be providing a donation of $10,000 of gravel for the construction of the trail, and the Arm of St. Clements wishes to leverage the funding from Trans-Canada Trails. Therefore, be it resolved, the Arm of St. Clements will fund the additional $10,000 for a community connectivity trail in Grand Marais with a crosswalk at Path 12 from Sunset Avenue on south to Grand Marais Community Central on the north from existing budgets.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horvis, second. Councillor Strang, discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Just like the CAO's thoughts on, so does it sound like now, like in the past, we used to get 1/3 funding from Trans-Canada Trail and 1/3 funding from Manitoba Trails? Kind of sounds like we're not going to be getting that. We're going to be getting one or the other from this point on.
Depending on some of these projects, yes, that's a good possibility. As well, in the past, we would receive 1/3 from Trans-Canada Trails, and then there would be 1/3 sometimes from a community group. Or we would get 1/3 from Building Sustainable Communities, which is one of the applications that's still in the works, and we don't know yet.
So there is still that other possibility.
That's
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
And again, every year is different. Trans-Canada Trail this year decided with the funds they had, they weren't going to target spurs. It was just one of those things. Next year, they may give money for spurs. It just all depends, right?
Okay, anything further? Do you want to read the resolution, or did you?
I did.
And I have a mover, I had a seconder. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Okay, 611 on 6.11, the stars, and this was something that came to me through WMR, and I'm not sure that we need to pass a resolution. I think what Colleen Sklar was trying to do was to see how many municipalities would be interested. I haven't seen anyone that's come forward. I saw one municipality that did decline because they gave their own donation directly to STARS, and it was a lot more than they were kind of looking for, so I'm not sure what council wants to do. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer, and then Councillor Strang.
So I looked through the listing, so they haven't picked anyone up in St. Clement since 1985?
I think that's Selkirk one, the 50, that's
No.
probably surrounding the area.
You bring up the listing again.
That can.
We're not listed.
Lockport's listed on here.
I think
Marie's
it's
listed on there. It's
I don't think it's
specifically-
specific to the municipality, I think it's the area.
Did you say
You go
85?
right to the bottom.
85, you said?
Since 1985, no.
That's 30-something years.
Now,
If you look on,
we're using them
yeah,
2
there's,
years
it's
ago, right?
on here.
Yeah.
We used them a couple times.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
no,
it's
they-
specific
it's
community,
celebrate.
not St. Clements.
Right.
Because I just tried to look for St. Clements.
No, I
Okay.
see on here Laconia,
Okay,
I see the Broken Hill Ojibwe Nation.
sorry, I did the quick one and tried to just go to the S's.
I think in 1985.
Nice
that
try.
is long.
Did they have helicopters back
No,
then?
well, not Stars, it wasn't around. No way.
Go
I can
ahead.
certainly have a talk with them. They do identify St. Andrews as a community.
Well, no, I just should have went through the whole list, I apologize.
We've got Lebo on here.
I guess I'm surprised it's,
Not long.
I thought it was a lot higher, especially, I know at 44 there, that I thought they were out a couple times last year, right?
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't take anybody, so they don't count that as a run, like, you know, they don't do a rescue, an actual rescue.
Well,
But I thought our numbers were higher than this, and really,
That
I'm
was
surprised
the-
how low that they are.
that was the other reason why I asked, because I thought last year we had one for sure.
But you look at Selkirk, it has 50, like, there's some of these
Yeah,
areas that are just
What are they asking for?
Steinbach.
I'm wondering if that's the
I
same
will gotta
majority
find my
taken
email,
for
so that
Selkirk.
email's not here.
This is about a sponsorship
They blocked it.
It came to me and I just.
But there's also.
Didn't we give 5,000 at one time?
Yeah, I thought they were asking for us for 5,000.
That was
No, we were
last
asking, we were asking for was a
Just
capital
as,
work.
just so you know, there's also, many of our residents will go to Selkirk Hospital, and they have to be then flown from there
Right.
to Winnipeg Hospital.
That's what I kind of thought it might have been, but then we should be.
That's Selkirk.
I missed the whole,
But we should be
I
supporting.
apologize.
So you want to do it all in one sum from the
Yeah, I just want to, okay, here it is. This was the original email I got. And it's from Colleen Sklar, and it says, in the attached correspondence below, Stars has proposed the title sponsorship for us. It is $12,000, less than $1,000 per community. Please let me know if this may be of interest to your council. So I already know that it's gonna be only 17 communities. So I don't know, do you want to just let WMR know that we would be willing to provide a grant? Or should we just do our own and make it whatever amount we wish?
When you
I think we
say
should.
community, do they mean like East Selkirk, or do they mean St. Clements?
St. Clements, the whole municipality, because there's 18 municipalities in the capital region, and I think that's what they were trying to do, because it said here, I did see it somewheres, where it was, a presenting sponsor was $12,000, and I think that's what the executive director from the WMR was alluding to, that if we went for the presenting sponsorship, or presenting sponsor, it would be less than $1,000 per community. So, go ahead, Councillor Strang, and then Councillor Sutherland.
Do you think Stars, since they came and approached us last year, do you think that they're going to come out again and send it to us rather than going through WMR? But I know it's going through WMR, it makes a bigger impact because we're giving less. And does it also go with our new way of thinking that we're donating? Because
Right, well, that's the other
that's
thing.
the other,
I mean,
even though I think it's a very good,
yes, it is
too.
very good. Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Well, I was going to say, I thought we should give it like as a municipality. I believe that's what we did last year. I thought it was 5,000, was
I
it?
thought it was 2,500 last year, wasn't it?
5,000, I thought it was. I'm in support of either way, but I just kind of thought we should do the same thing as we did last year.
Well, it says here, hourly matching sponsors $1,000 by supporting the critical care on the Air Radiothon as an hourly matching sponsor you will receive, and that's $1,000.
So, Madam Mayor, if I
Go
may,
ahead.
what I think this is a specific sponsorship drive for additional sponsorship over and above what they would normally request from the RMs that they've been asking for support.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Well, I think if we get a higher level of recognition for less money, that's money well spent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just my thought.
But are they gonna still come back for the other 5 after?
Well, we can
We
make
can
that
tell.
decision when it comes, if it comes.
Well, and I guess the other thing is that we could check with the executive director at WMR to see if she's had any uptake on it, because I haven't received anything. So Deepak or I could give her a quick call and let her know if she's had any interest, and maybe bring it back. Like if there's interest, we would go with this, but if there's no interest, we could go on our own when they come forward. Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I was just gonna say, if it's only 2 RMs, are we then on the hook for $6,000 each? I don't know, like, you know, if only 2 of us. But I agree with Councillor Spicer that we could take part in this for that, and then if they come back to us, then we can relook at it and give them another donation.
Well, you know what I can do is, in a couple minutes here, I can send a note to WMR and maybe we'll get an answer before we finish our first part of our meeting today, so to see if she's had any uptake. Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
Either or, we know we gave $5,000 in the past, so if the first uptake is 1,000 for this program and they come back to us, I mean, we could be open for another 3 or 4.
Should do that too.
You know,
Yeah.
we know what we spent before, if we
Yeah.
want to come close to that.
Yeah. Councillor
What it
Bazarovich
was
and then
before
Councillor
we-
Spicer.
They asked for per capita, and we gave them $5,000, and then what they had was that abandoned island thing there, it was another fundraiser.
Right.
It's over and above, they did come back the second time, but we already gave once.
Yeah, I think that per capita, that was way more
That
than
was,
5.
yeah, it
It was
was.
like $10,000, and we only gave.
Well, it was close to the 1250.
Yeah,
Scott
whatever,
and-
but
Councillor Spicer and then Councillor Strang.
Very worthwhile organization, but I do think that we had quite a lengthy discussion about grant policies this spring. And whether $5,000 was in the grant policy or not, so that's something that we should be also having a discussion about.
Okay.
I was just gonna mention the exact same thing about tightening our purse strings a little, so, but I would be in agreement to this going with WMR.
Okay, well, let me just send this little note, and then hopefully in the next little while, I will have an answer, and maybe we can look at it before we leave this evening, one way or the other, so. Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Just going with grants, can we have a running total? We know where our goal is or our targeted amount, so we aren't overspending. Is there any way that we can always have an update so we know, like, you know, what we have to spend, that we're not going over and above? Because we were going to try and cut back a little and be a little bit more frugal, and
For the grants?
yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so that's that part of it. We can move on to number 7 on our agendas, which is the accounts of the financial statement. We do have our closed list of accounts for the period ending May 25th, and if I could have the resolution, please.
Resolved, council approved the May 25th, 2021 list of accounts, check numbers 21000,893 to 21000,998 in the amount of $302,584.09 for payment.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any discussion, questions, or comments? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. We have a financial statement for the period ended April the 30th of 2021. up, please.
Resolve the financial statement dated April 30th, 2021 be accepted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horvath, second. Councillor Strang, discussion. Don't see any hands, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And one more, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, a payment voucher, and I believe that is for our membership to FCM. Whoops.
No, this is a regular payment. I put this on, Madam Mayor. Normally, this is a normal loan payment that just gets processed,
Yes.
and it doesn't necessarily need council approval.
Okay, do you want to read the resolution? That's for our municipal green funding, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Resolve council approve the payment voucher in the amount of $83,936 to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for the GMF loan agreement.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Horvath, seconds, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, 7.4, appointment of a municipal auditor, and this is something that needs to be done every year. So if I could have the resolution, please, Mr. CAO.
Whereas Section 184(1) of the Municipal Act requires the municipality to appoint an auditor by August 31st of each year, therefore be it resolved, the extension for independent audit services provided by the firm of Exchange Group be hereby accepted, and the Exchange Group be appointed as the municipal auditor for the fiscal year 2021.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horvath, Councillor Strang, seconds, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
Councilor Stranger came here one time and they did a presentation here.
Yeah. Okay, I just got a note back from the executive director at WMR, and she says that no one has come forward. So what is the wish of council? Leave it till they come to us, or? And I mean, we can always bring it back if in the next, when we have our next WMR meeting, which is on Friday. If a few of them say at that time, we can always bring it back. And I mean, if it's okay with council, if it does come back that way, I could always let the other members know that yes, we would be supportive of joining in with them, so. Sandra, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I support to bring it back to council,
Okay.
to see how many people that
Right.
are, other RMs that are
Yeah, I
interested are
might
gonna
find out
support.
more when I log in on Friday morning for our meeting.
It just came out too, right?
Yeah, last week I got it, so. Yeah. And I mean, maybe some of the councils are like us, they're going to take it to their councils and haven't had a council meeting yet, so. Okay, so that, I've lost my, my AllNet here, so I have to,
I was kicked out as well.
yeah, I don't know what the heck happened, but we are down to communications, I believe. There are no bylaws. We are communications for information. So, Mr. Administrator, did you have any that you wanted to look at there while I'm trying to get back in here?
Nothing specific in any of these.
Okay.
I noticed Broken Head is looking at some industrial land designations
Correct?
right across from Garson.
Yes. And from what I understand, they have water and sewer there.
Mhm.
Like needs water and sewer.
Across where? Like across south or?
Right across from, to the north of 44.
No.
Pretty cool.
Isn't that, Gillis Quarry land, or it must not be?
I think the quarry's in behind.
Okay, so there's really not too much in our communications for information this time around. Before we start our council reports, I'd like to take a 5-minute break if I could, please.
You paused it? It's okay, Counselor, you can walk away with it.
Okay.
There's Paul, and there's asked for